Caloric V2. This is a super safe and effective natural anabolic. Not only is this product going to help you increase protein synthesis, which basically means muscle recovery and growth, it also may inhibit myostatin, which is a protein in your body that is known to inhibit muscle growth. This is a complete natural anabolic that works through multiple different pathways, has multiple trademarked ingredients. If you are a natural athlete looking for that edge, Caloric V2 is what you need. Get yourself some.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Pro Physique Code. What's up, Lexie? What's up, Evan?
What's up?
What up, my dude?
Well, I think we got three major things to talk about today. We're going to get into, I think we'll end with kind of the fit model stuff because we did have the first ever fit model competition happened in LA. We also have some new rules for IFBB Pro cards. But I think the big thing that happened was the NPC Women's Workshop in Orlando, which is the annual women's only event. I think that's about the third year now they've done it.
It is the fourth year. So the first one that they ever did was in Las Vegas. That's the only one I haven't gone to. I remember I had severe FOMO that year. And then it was in Arizona, and that's the first one I went to. And then last year it was in Orlando, and then it was in Orlando again this year.
Yeah. So I think Orlando's kind of its home now. They've gotten a good spot, and some of the Florida promoters are there assisting. I mean, it sells out pretty quickly, but then I think a lot of people kind of don't show, and so then there's this like, how was the ambiance as far as how full it was?
I feel like I don't know the specific numbers, but for me, I thought this year seemed like it was the most packed. I
Awesome.
think people have gotten a little bit more courteous of like if they get a ticket, then and if they can't go, like they'll email Sandy and let her know. Or like I had a girl that I know who couldn't make it, so her ticket, she gave it to one of my clients. So I think people are becoming a little bit more courteous of that, because I do remember 2 years ago when it was in Arizona, I remember there were a lot of empty seats. Like, I don't know if they just overshot, how many seats they needed to have, but there were a lot of empty seats, but not this year.
That's good. That's good. So give us the overview of like, what was the theme of the women's workshop this year?
Yeah, so for anybody who's been to like class shows or Girl Power in 2024, it was at that same venue. So think it was in the same ballroom, stage was the same. There were a good amount of booths and vendors like in the back, like a good amount.
That's
Kind of
the
like
Avanti Palms, that one?
Yes, that's where it was at. So it literally, just imagine you're walking into like a class show. It's kind of same room. It just had a lot of vendors in the back. Couple suit companies, couple of like there were lots of show promoters there with like banners for their shows. So that was really neat. And then basically the very beginning, what they did is they played Tyler's video, like his official video of the fit model criteria. They played that. And then at the very beginning, so Sid Gillen was like the commentator for the first portion of everything. And she basically, it was broken down by, she had somebody on stage walking through the fit model posing routine and what they're looking for there, then the bikini posing routine, then the wellness figure and above. So, and I have to say, Sid, she should have her own like comedy show. She was hilarious. If anybody was there in person or watched the live stream, like she was saying some things that everybody was just like laughing hysterically about. She was amazing for the job.
It's funny. I've noticed ever since she announced her retirement, she has been so much more vocal online. It was almost like when she was competing, she would not really post much, didn't post much training videos. You never saw her physique till the stage. Now that she's retired, she's in the gym training in sports bras and showing off her shape. And it's like, I actually messaged her one day and I was like, man, it's so cool to see you sharing all this stuff that you never shared before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she did. Yeah, she was amazing. I think that was part of the fun of the first part, was like with the posing, was just having her as a commentator. So that was like the first portion. And then I feel like there was something after that, but then after that, there's like the breakout session. So meaning there's like 4 different topics you can choose to kind of go and listen to. So there was one actually that I stayed in to listen to just with one of my clients. So there was one portion that was specific for like true novice competitors. Becky Clausen ran that and just talked a little bit about, what to expect as a first timer, what she recommends. And I thought that was really cool to hear, like what she recommends for first time competitors to do. AKA a lot of the things like we as coaches say, like go to shows, before competing, go to workshops, go to seminars, things like that. And then at the very end, there was like time to kind of break out and pose with the pros if you wanted to. So yeah, that was kind of the layout of the day.
Yeah, I watched the first part of it on the live stream. For some reason, it worked on my computer, but I couldn't get to work on my mobile device. The audio wasn't working for some reason. But yeah, I thought Sid did a really good job with the posing. She made it light and fun, and she has a real good talent for that. And the other one I saw was they were talking about more like enjoying the journey. Trust your coach, obviously vet your coach, but trust your coach until they give you a reason not to trust them, right? Like give them an opportunity to fail, not too many cooks in the kitchen, but make sure that you trust the person before you get, you start working with them, that you vetted them. And I thought that was really good to hear.
Yeah, that and something else I loved that Sandy said is because we say this all the time as coaches, but it was good to hear it from her. Because I think just the more people that say this, hopefully it'll kind of click with a lot of people. But there was like a open Q&A portion, and someone asked something about like how do you get the hamstrings not to pop as much in like the back pose? How do you avoid like the graininess or having too prominent of hamstrings, because obviously they don't want that in bikini. And Sandy took the microphone and she was like, well, that's when you just need to go back to the gym and you need to spend time building, so that way you don't have to get as
Yeah.
lean to see all the striations. Because she specifically said, she's like, we want to see soft muscle and bikini, right? Obviously, like we want to see that definition, but she specifically used the term soft muscle. But I like that she just, basically she took the microphone right out of someone's hand. She's like, no, if you're struggling with the hamstring issue, like you need to just go back into the gym and build. So that way you don't have to get as tiny and lean, because we don't want to see an anatomy chart on stage.
Yeah, I think that I remember that exact part actually when she went up and grabbed it, and I think I misunderstood the question to begin with. I thought the person was talking about the glute ham tie-in and separation there, and then she talked about the hamstring part, and I was like, oh, that makes complete sense because that's what it's all about. It's bodybuilding, right?
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
to get lean, but you have to have the muscle to be able to get lean. I had a conversation with one of my clients the other day. We're about to start prep, and she asked what her stage weight was probably going to be. And I said, probably something similar to what it was last year, but we'll just have more muscle, be able to probably push you to get a little leaner because you have the muscle to support it now. But again, it's taking the time to build that, right? And you can't have that soft glute look if you don't have the muscle and intensity there. You won't
Right.
have separation unless it's there. And we've all seen this, right? Like a lot of high level wellness girls, they will have glute ham separation and tie in the middle of an off season
Oh yeah.
because they have so much muscle.
Yep.
And that was something else that like I personally really enjoyed about the seminar, is like going and seeing all of these. I mean, gosh, there were wellness pros, there were figure pros, there were bikini pros, and like you seeing them all on stage too, and like knowing, where each of them is in their journey. Like some are in prep, some are in off season, but you could even see like there's some of their leggings and clothes. Like, oh, yep, you can see their glutes and their hamstring tie-in, even though they're not prep.
One thing I do wish they would do on here, because it's something I go with my clients all the time, is I think the posing is really good, but I think it would be helpful if they wore heels when they did their posing, because it changes the shape and the look of a whole lot. A whole lot.
So they were doing posing, but not with heels on, just
No,
kind of
they
regular
just with
shoes.
sneakers. Yeah.
Yeah, so on stage, yeah, at the very beginning, they just kind of used all the pros to kind of just show the basics. And I think that's, I guess, probably why they don't put on the heels, is they're more so just showing the basics of posing. Because I think, we all know like posing, it does for your division at all, there's a certain routine that is followed, but it is going to be a little different in person dependent, right? Like angle wise. But something that I, did get a little bit of clarification on too with Fit Model is I know that on the Fit Model criteria, they have been saying like, front pose and back pose only, no transitions, right? And I think that was confusing a lot of people because, we saw it this past week at the
Yes.
Fit Model show. It wasn't like, they just hit their front pose, relaxed and turned around. There are transitions, but somebody specifically asked about that at the women's conference about like, hey,
Yeah.
okay, can, like, it looks like we can have transitions. Can somebody, clarify that? And they did say, like, yes, you can have transitions to your back pose. The difference between fit model transitions though and like bikini transitions is a lot quicker, like boom,
Yeah.
boom, back pose. You're not taking your time in transitions and hitting them and stopping, like you're,
No stopping.
yeah, no stopping. You're kind of just glazing through them, looking fluid and flowy, and then turning to the back pose.
Yep. I remember the exact part when Sid was talking about that. She's like, none of this take, pause, look stuff. It was turn. And again, I also like too how they did the two examples of the fit model front pose too, about how you can position your waist and how, because I do get a lot of questions about that too, right? Like which one is the actual stallion pose? And it's good to see that they're going to allow, some variations of that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I feel like we'll see even more variations as the shows kind of pick up, because we see that even with bikini. We see
Mhm.
slightly different variations of the actual bikini front pose.
Well, I mean, that pose came from bikini. And so I had a client message me and say, what'd you think of fit model? And I still think it's just bikini. It's still
Yeah.
bikini. Like it's not a new division. They are just trying to ensure that the division stays where it's supposed to be. Whereas the pro bikini division has gotten well beyond whatever it was intended to start with. And so they're having to like basically create a new division that's the same division. So
Mhm.
um, for me, I'm sure it was probably a pretty hot topic at this event, but I think just once the shows start happening, everyone's going to see that the same girls that are doing well in that would have done well in bikini and vice versa, right? Once the pro shows start happening, that's where I think you're going to see the clear separation, and maybe it's some of the national shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really curious. And something else too I'll share on here too. I know I told you this, Paul, on Saturday, but I wasn't really clear on this before the women's workshop, so this was good to get clarification on. So I know that with Fit Model and Bikini, they've made it pretty clear that like you cannot cross over and do both at one show, right? Whereas like some girls now like do wellness and bikini at the same show. You can't do that with Fit Model and Bikini. But Sandy did say if it's like a natural show, we know that usually the natural show happens on like that Friday or that Sunday after the actual show. And Sandy did say that if you wanted to compete in Fit Model, like for that open actual show and then compete in bikini the next day in the natural show, you could, because those are two separate like entities or two separate shows. So that was something I wasn't quite sure on before the seminar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, I mean, I guess that's a nice smooth transition. So if we actually talk about the young lady that won the overall at the LA Fit Expo, the first ever fit model, I believe there was about 10 competitors total. So is this a good representation? We'll see. But the young lady that won the overall had just competed in October in a natural bikini competition and won her class. She did not go to Ben Weider, but I did some digging, and at the show that she did in October, the girl that won the overall, because she won her class and there was two classes. There was only maybe like 15 girls at the show bikini. Um, that girl did win her pro card at the Ben Weider as a masters competitor. So,
Okay.
so like there was some good competition at that show. She won her class, but didn't go to Ben Weider. I don't think she would have won her, you know, pro card in bikini at the Ben Weider, just seeing the caliber of the competitors compared to, I will say this, she's stunningly very beautiful, has 4 kids.
That
Yeah, so like she's just got a really great like overall look to her. I'm, is she going to go for the pro card at Junior USA's the first opportunity? We'll see. But yeah, I think the thing that stood out to me, and I'll see if I can I do a screen share with you guys and show? Because
yeah, you've
I
done
have
it
her
before.
pictures. Yeah, I have her pictures from her last competition. And I think these represent very similarly to what her look was at this show.
Yeah.
Like,
And I just have to say too, like props to all of the girls that got on stage and Fit Model this past weekend, because like in my opinion, that takes guts to be the first, like,
Yeah.
just kind of putting yourself out there. Like that's, I think that takes a lot of guts. So props to all those girls that did that.
Yeah. I'm interested to know where they get their bikinis from. Did they get them from suit makers? Did they get them
I
from the
don't think they
store?
got them. I think it's too soon because most of the girls' suits were very small. And that was the first comment I made was, well, this
Yeah.
certainly isn't 50% coverage.
I know that a couple of them, there were two that I know off the top of my head that had them from Angel Competition Bikinis. But I did notice that there was one girl that I don't believe hers was from Angel, but the bottom coverage was that of like a bikini suit. So I was a little confused because there were definitely, some variances in coverage there. But I think with anything new, like I think that I feel like the judges are going to get probably a little bit more leeway with suits at the beginning just because it's still so new. But I saw a difference, like some girls wore like the hologram fabric, which is the fabric that has like a little bit of that shine to it. Still solid, but it has a little bit of that shine to it. Some girls
Yeah.
wore matte. So like the winner is a good example. She wore matte. So that was like matte. But I thought it was interesting to see like what both looked like on stage and which one popped a little bit more. Like I love the look of the hologram and the shine, but I think that
I don't think it's gonna look right.
yeah, I think the matte provides a little bit more contrast and pop
Yeah.
on stage, especially because they can only wear a solid suit. So, I think that if somebody listening is considering fit model, I think it is really important to pick a color that's going to be like a rich, deep jewel tone, but that's going to pop a lot on stage because you don't have the crystals to help with that contrast.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
wonder if they're
So
gonna
how
allow,
do I?
do they have to be plain? Do they have to be plain, or they allow for designs?
As of now, they said solid, plain
Okay.
suits. So, yeah, so no designs. I mean, yeah, to my knowledge, maybe that'll evolve over time, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to share my screen here so I can click a button. Let's see here. I know we did it before where I can actually show what's on the screen because I just want to show this young lady so we can get an idea. Because it's kind of like if I would have described who I thought would win the show, she looks like a model. She's stunning
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
she has some muscle. Like she's got some quads, she's got some shoulders, not the densest glutes, but her conditioning was pretty good. No hard lines, very nice core, just really good flow to her physique, but just captivating. Like you couldn't take your eyes off her.
for
Yeah.
sure. Because I saw
That.
some girls too with some of the video footage that Muscle Contest put out, because they did put out some good like reels and some good video
Mhm.
footage. But I did see some girls in Fit Model that were actually like really lean, like they had that shredded core. They were like kind of the maybe not super prominent and big delts, but like the capped delt just because they were so lean. So like there were some girls that were like just obviously too lean. So I'm happy to see that they rewarded who they rewarded because that really, you know, is exactly what they put in the written criteria.
Yeah, and I think that's when it'll get interesting. Is like, okay, so say you have a young lady like her who's, got nice flow, no hard lines, really pretty, great shape. And then she comes up against a girl who's got a little bit more muscle, maybe not as pretty, but a little bit harder. Like which way are they gonna err towards that more model look, or are they gonna, go, okay, this girl's, judging may come into play,
I,
but it just reminds me of a few years ago in bikini when we weren't always sure what was gonna happen. It's gotten a
I,
little more
yeah.
consistent.
I think that's the way it's going to be. It's going to be kind of unsure what's going to happen, and I think the word I keep going back is I think the word model is in the name of the division for a reason. I think it's in there for a reason. And I think looking back, they kind of think of, okay, if we were going to restart bikini again today, kind of what would be the criteria? What we want with that? And I think that's a part of it. I do think being an attractive female is going to be important.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that probably goes to the point that like I'm sure that they've gotten some people this past year that have maybe thought, oh, well, bikini is not very feminine anymore, right? So
Yeah.
I think that that's maybe why
Yeah.
they want to encourage a little bit more of that like femininity and beauty aspect for fit model. But I'll be interested too. So like I'm really curious to see once we really get into the thick of the season, like spring, summer, when the show numbers, notoriously get higher. I'm really curious, are these fit model divisions like going to be huge? And then what's going to happen when you know, you have, let's say, 5 girls on stage who all literally look the exact same physique wise, or like they're all
Yeah.
very comparable, then it's like, what are they gonna, you know, are they're probably gonna look, I guess, for that beauty aspect, you know, to differentiate the winner, you know, against the people that don't win. So I'm just curious about how that will work.
And I think you put that right, Lexi. I think it's more beauty is important. I think femininity is what they're going for. I think that's a better way to put it. Like a feminine flow to the physique too. And I think, look, out of all the divisions, I think this one, like your God-given structure and how lean you're able to get, how much muscle you can carry, how you lean out in different areas at different rates. I think all of that is going to play a big factor with this. Because when you can only carry so much muscle and you can only be so lean, genetics and structure take over a lot of that. Because what else are you supposed to do?
Exactly. Yeah, I think so many people have thought, like initially when this division was announced, that it was going to be so easy to obtain. But like to your point, Evan, genetics is going to play a little bit of a role because, and I mean, you have to have muscle on your frame to support the look that they want to
Mhm.
see, right? Because if you don't have any muscle, you know, you're going to still have to diet down and get lean to see a little bit of muscle, but then you're probably going to be too lean and they don't want to see that, right? But it's all about finding that like fine line,
Yeah.
that balance between having a balanced physique and being able to have, you know, a nice solid muscular base, but not having to get so lean to show it, and still having kind of that soft feminine look. Like, and honestly, like with the winner, like that to me, it embodies everything that Tyler kind of mentioned that they want to see. Like basically they want to see a girl that would maybe be on the cover of a fitness magazine. And like that's literally what I thought of when I saw that girl.
And Paul, here's a question for you, Paul. Let get your opinion on this. So, you know, they want muscle, but you need shape, which means you have to have muscle, but
Yeah.
they don't want you too lean. So you're going to need a bit more base of muscle, I think, than people are thinking that you're probably going to need for this. I had a number of girls message me about the winter and say, hey, like this girl has way more muscle than I thought you would need. And I was like, well, this is bodybuilding still. Like you're going to need a good
Yeah,
base
I
of
mean,
muscle on
way
your
more
frame.
muscle than you thought you would need. Um, but she's a competitive bodybuilder. She's competed before and won
Yeah.
in bikini. So
Hmm.
she's already, you know, she's got a history of training. She's not a teenager. She's got 4 children.
Yeah.
So, you know, she's obviously been at this a while, and I think she's a good representation of what they want. But nothing about her screamed masculinity at all. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, she's got some shoulders and she's got some quads and some glutes, but at no point does that look anything but just good development. You know,
Yeah.
like you said, what Sandy said. I hate the word soft muscle. Like that's a terrible word.
I
I,
know,
I
But
get like dense is I think dense is the
smooth, like a smooth appearing muscle, maybe.
I like smooth. Yeah, smooth muscle. Yeah, because like literally Sandy said exactly soft muscle. But again, I know what you mean. I don't like that term either because I feel like we associate soft with like not being lean. But I think smooth muscle, that's a better way to explain it. Like rather than the grainy and like vascular,
yes.
like bumpy, you know,
So
yeah, smooth. I like
this is the way I want to describe it to most people. And if I'm wrong on this, you guys tell me what you think. To me, I think they want dense muscle that's not that lean. That is a smooth, good,
that.
round shape. But if you have dense muscle and then you start to get lean, that's when you get that graininess and hardness and stuff they don't want to see. So you need some density there. So
Yeah.
that's where I feel like it's a little bit of a catch 22 because they want to make the fit model division something that you can just train a little bit and get there. But if you're going to have that little bit of density in there, you're going to have to train for a while to get that. And a lot of girls we see in bikini don't even have that. Right. So
Well, and
that's where,
that's why when I discuss this with clients or on a phone call, I say it's still bikini. There's
yeah,
literally no difference,
yeah.
especially at these early stages. Until someone says you're too lean for fit model, you're both, right? I
Hmm.
Well, it kind
rarely
of
see girls that wouldn't fit both.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me like looking at the girls that were on stage this week for Fit Model. I mean, a lot of them, I don't know how many of them statistic wise. I do know a couple of them though off the top of my head that have done bikini in the past. And like I think all the girls that stepped on stage for Fit Model this weekend, like they are all probably like they could do bikini, they could do a, you know, a regional bikini show, but they're probably all people that would just get the feedback of like, hey, shape looks great, structure is great, but you just need to add more everywhere. Like that's kind of exactly what I saw when I saw these girls. And I know a couple of them, thinking of one in particular who's done bikini in the past, and like she's got great shape, structure, but like her feedback is just you need to add, you know, more density everywhere. So that's kind of, you know, and that makes sense because this is kind of supposed to be like that introductory gateway division into bikini if eventually maybe, you know, you want to go towards bikini. Some people are probably not, but that makes sense.
Here's
All right,
a question for
so
you, Lex. So
here is the young lady that we're discussing. Her name is Angela Miranda, and this is her back pose. So can you guys see that?
Mhm.
Yeah. So like,
Wait, this is not okay. So just to confirm, this is not at the show this past weekend, though.
no, this is not at the show this past weekend, but I would say she was very similar to this. Like looking at the pictures and videos, like there's not a lot of difference between this and that.
Yeah.
Maybe slightly, but I think here she might even be a little bit leaner than she was there. That tie-in on the left side is getting pretty sharp. But if you look at her back pose, like she doesn't have like 3D glutes. They're not prominent. The delts are capped nicely, but this is a natural bikini competition where she won her class. She did not win the overall, but the lady that won her overall did turn pro at the next show. And then I'll show you guys her front pose because I think the front pose is where she really stands out. She's just kind of got that wow factor from
Oh yeah, okay.
head to
I already
toe.
see it, yeah.
Yeah. So now this is obviously a bikini she's in for the bikini division, not Fit Model, but you know, just great structure, great look. I think she looked better at the Fit Expo.
Did you click on a front post, Paul?
Yeah, you can't see it?
No, you got to scroll down a little bit.
Or scroll, yeah, scroll
Scroll
up.
up.
See.
We only see the gallery view right now.
Oh,
like
it's on that side of the
pictures.
screen. Oh, hold on. Maybe I got to move this over here then. Huh? What do you
No,
see?
we're just same thing. We're seeing the list of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, like 12 pictures.
Yeah, but I clicked on a picture, so all I see is the picture.
Oh, scroll up, scroll the wheel up. I think maybe too far down on the page.
Like there.
Yeah, keep going. Right there.
There you go.
Hold on, let me pull it back up. Yeah, but when I pull it up, it pulls it up in a new window. That's the problem. Okay, so it's in a new window.
I see.
I don't know if I can click next because that's just a still shot.
Yeah.
What I have to do
Okay.
is change the share. Hold on. I'll do this. Let me pull up her picture. I'll pull up her front pose and then I'll change the share to this screen. Yeah, there we go. Boom. There. Okay, there we go. Now you see her?
No.
Same thing. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Yep.
There she
Yep.
is.
Yeah, so there's her front pose. So that's
Okay, yeah, for sure.
so, and it, you know, you would never look at this. She's not grainy. She's not hard. Her lower back is tight, but she's got that really nice hourglass shape. Now, obviously, this is not the stallion front pose. Honestly, I think the stallion suited her better than her actual front pose.
Yeah, she's kind of squatting into that front pose too here.
Yeah, she's pushing that glute out, which is a lot of girls do that to create that little shape.
Right. I like that you're pulling up her bikini poses though, because because I actually, it's funny, Evan, that you said you had girls tell you that there was more muscle for Fit Model than they thought. Cause I actually heard some girls say the opposite. And I think though, this is a good example, like showing her in her bikini front pose, because you can see, okay, yeah, she does have a good amount of muscle, like, you know, to support her structure. So, and honestly, this is, you know, I think I'm really happy that she was the winner of Fit Model.
Yeah.
I feel like it really does withstand like what they have said from the get-go that they want. So I'm really happy about this.
Yeah, very pretty, good muscle in her upper body. Not her quads are a little bit on the smaller side, but her glutes are a little bit overdeveloped compared to her quads, which is what you want, right? Her core's tight. She's not peeled out through the core. Her shoulders are soft, but there's lines there. Yeah, I mean, this all makes sense.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so I thought that was nice. And also Muscle Contest posted the overall. So when I was watching the overall, I agreed with you, Lexie. I thought the girls looked very thin on stage, which can come down to like there was only 10 girls. So,
yeah,
you know, they had 4 class winners. So that means there might have been class with only 1 girl or 2 girls.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly, I mean, this was the first fit model show. Some girls, honestly, probably maybe went in with the idea of like, let me just get a little bit leaner than maybe I think I need to get. Like, who knows? They could have just been testing the waters too, because
For
just
sure.
seeing what works and what didn't. But I mean, props to all of them for getting on stage. I think it would be kind of, I mean, it'd be fun, but I think it would be a little scary to get on stage in the first division, like our first show that has fit model ever.
Well, and to be fair, who knows how many people might have done it if it wasn't for the fires. I don't know how impactful that was in some of those communities.
I
You know,
Probably, I mean, the local people that could have done the show, that probably impacted them. I mean, for anybody that traveled in, that probably didn't impact
yeah.
them. But yeah, I could definitely have seen if you lived in LA. I mean, even if your home was fine, just that stress during the time could have been enough for you to probably be like, I'm gonna push back my show day.
Yeah. So, well, and you know, depending on the judging that day, and you know, there's still so much to learn about the division. The immediate feedback I got from people messaging me because I posted a video was, I thought the suits had to be bigger, and I think that's just going to come with time. They're just going to have to enforce it.
Yeah,
You know, are they gonna mark somebody down or not let them win because their suit is too small? That's really what's going to force change because girls,
Yeah.
competitors are always going to push the boundaries. Your glutes are going to look bigger with a smaller suit. They just are. So finding that balance of like the suit that makes your glutes look good, but still lets you compete without getting in trouble. But you know, having her win right out of the gate with those suit bottoms, I promise you, like a lot of girls saw that and were like, oh, okay.
yeah, and I
Yeah.
think the suit makers are gonna probably evolve the suit bottoms a little bit. Because it's funny because like I actually got a fit model suit a week ago from AC Bikinis. They sent it to me and I looked at it. I haven't like tried it on for reference, but I did look at it. And when you look at it just on, when I just looked at it out of the box, it doesn't look super small. I mean, it looks like a Brazilian cut. If you're like
Yeah.
familiar with like the cut names for bikini, it looks like a Brazilian cut, right? So sometimes like in bikini, we see like in the natural federations, we see girls wearing bottoms with a little bit more coverage. That's like that Brazilian cut. So that's what the suit bottom cut looks like to me, right? So, because I think if you have too much fabric back there, it ends up kind
Yeah.
of just looking like a diaper in a way, So it's like, but I did see some girls on stage at this fit model show. Like I saw one girl wearing a suit that literally it looked like a bikini bottom. So I'm like, ooh, okay. So yeah, but I was so excited to see this first show. I was just anticipating it so much. I was so anxious to see what was up there and what was going to be rewarded, how many girls were going to do it. So I'm really looking forward though to, especially going to these Florida shows locally and like seeing it in person. Like I'm really
Yeah.
excited to see it, with my two eyes in person.
Yeah. And they're not having it at the Arnold. I know that, right? That's not at the Arnold, so we won't see it there.
No, we will see bikini
Yeah.
and I mean, shout out to the girl also that won the bikini overall at the LA Fit Expo because she looked fantastic.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And that's one of those shows you really don't know. But with the Arnold now having a qualification requirement, you can expect that she'll be at the Arnold, right? Like that's probably her goal was to get ready for the Arnold. And I think
Yeah.
Yeah.
last year Sam won that and then got her pro card at the Arnold. So you can expect her to be very competitive at the Arnold.
Yeah.
Something
Yeah.
that we did last week was I made a question on my Instagram stories
Hmm.
for some research about weight. Someone pointed out to me that Angel Competitions actually did a survey and it's posted on their website.
Oh,
So now
should have
that
known that. Whoops.
Is it?
so I'm going to share it with you guys. How did I do that? That was so, uh, post tools, share screen. Yeah. So I thought it was very clever that they had done this because, they get a lot of information from, okay, so here I'm going to share the screen so we can just talk about heights and weights. All right, so let me know when this comes up for you guys.
Right. Cool. We got it. Oh, wow.
So, yeah,
Okay.
so this was a survey run by Angel Competition Bikinis. Now, this is stage weight, all divisions. This is not just bikini.
Oh, okay.
However,
Okay.
if you scroll up and look at the number of people, out of 3,492 data points, 2,840 are bikini. So even though the data might be skewed slightly higher, it's definitely mostly bikini. Yeah. So, and you even have 36 bodybuilders in there, which would really throw the numbers off.
Yeah.
You
Probably.
know, I'll have to, you know what, I like this a lot. I didn't know that they had this. I'll have to encourage them to maybe do one that's just for like to separate it by divisions, because that would be
They
really,
probably could
yeah.
because if they have this data, they probably could just do one for bikini, the 2,484 that they did.
Here,
Yeah.
here's my issue with this information is we all go to shows. We know that a lot of people are not in shape for shows, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like the only data that would be useful for us is data for people who won their class or were top 2 in their class or something like that, who are in shape, right? I mean,
Yeah, I would agree. However, this much data, like for a competitor that's new to the sport, this is at least, you can look at this and go, oh, I'm 5 feet tall. I'm going to be 125 pounds on stage. No, you're not. Right? Like if they're starting prep and they're 150 and that, like, it's going to give them a ballpark range.
yeah,
When I looked at these numbers, I thought, whoa, the short ones are really heavy and the tall ones are really light. Like it seems skewed to me. Like 411, 104 is jacked.
yeah,
Yeah, that saw that number and I'm like, whoa.
5 foot 108.
I
I think
I have some
that's
5 foot girls that are like they're like 95 pounds,
right. And
94
I
pounds
think
on stage.
that's
Yeah.
like, I think Ashlyn is around 5 foot 5'1", and she's under that. And
Yeah.
she's a top, first call out Olympian.
Yeah.
So for bikini, these numbers would probably be skewed a little bit up. And then when you get to the heavier weights, the heavy, like 5'9", 5'10", and I'm like, oh, 135, that sounds about right. But then it doesn't really go up for 5'10", 5'11", 6 foot. So yeah, I think it's at least a ballpark. It's at least an idea where you should be. But yeah,
Yeah.
I would say a 411, truly in shape, good bikini competitor is going to be low 90s, 93, 94, something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
I know
Yeah.
we've talked about it before, but like sometimes having clients under 5 feet, like when they start to get low 90s, like that's kind of a number where you're like, ooh, it's a little scary. But then you remember, you're like, oh, wait, they're below 5 foot, So that
Yeah.
is where a lot of them end up is the low 90s. Yeah.
Yeah, when you look at an update picture of an athlete by themselves, you can't tell that they're 411, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
I have one competitor that's phenomenal athlete, but like, yeah, it's always like, man, are we really getting down to 94 pounds? But yeah, when I see her in person, I'm like, oh yeah, because she even looks tiny when she's in class A. Like when they walk out, she
Yeah.
looks
Yeah, for
tiny.
sure.
So
And here's something I think we probably have talked about this, but something for every competitor to know, especially shorter competitors, it's that not all food is created equally, right? So if you look at your food and you think, oh wow, I'm under 1,000 calories, it's like, well, if you're, or let's say 1,100 calories, you're under 1,100 calories, but you're 92 pounds. That's not that low, right?
yeah, I mean,
So
we've talked about it. My kind
yeah,
of barrier is like 10 times your body weight. So like, yeah, if you're under 1,000 calories, but you're under 100 pounds, you're probably fine.
yeah.
Um,
And I try to get that across to people who have never really been pushed before too. And they worry about being pushed too hard and pushing their food too low where it's an unhealthy amount. And that's where I get into those conversations about that, right? And I draw comparisons about like me and what I like my weight and what I do. And like Chris Bumstead's very, very, honest about like where his food goes. And his food's not super low, but he's a big guy, right? So when you start looking at it based on
I think
averages on
one prep,
things,
he was talking about like 1,500, 1,600 calories in prep at,
yeah, he pushes low.
220, 230. That is very low.
240.
Yeah, so that is very low, but those are
He
probably
also
short
prepped.
periods of time.
Yeah, he also preps for like 12 weeks too, only. So he
Yeah.
has to push the barrier a little bit harder.
So yeah, and I mean but that's another thing I've learned as a coach is like sometimes you got to push beyond what your barrier would be when the timeline and and sometimes those are the best results when you just put your athlete, because sometimes you're just stuck and you just put them outside of that
Yeah.
comfort zone and boom. The difference
You
is
cruise when you cruise and push when you need to
you
push,
pay
right?
attention to the person. You don't just,
Yep.
because the horror stories I've heard is like, oh, my coach put me on 800 calories and I was on that for 6 months. And you go, were they not paying attention? You're 10 pounds below stage weight right now. That's where, that can be a problem.
Yeah.
I guess the final thing I wanted to talk about, Evan, because this really applies to you,
Mhm.
is I want to talk about these new rules for once you get your pro card, because when I first heard this, I thought, wow, that's a pretty significant thing. And I haven't heard a lot of talk about it. So I'll put it on the screen
Yeah.
here.
I've seen some videos about it recently.
Yeah, and I've seen it about the bodybuilding division, so I don't know if it's seeped into the culture of the bikini figure, but the big thing is this first sentence. Athletes have 1 year from the date they earn their pro card to apply for professional league status, or they are no longer eligible. That's a new rule. So let's say you got your pro card 2 years ago and you've never applied for it. They said you have until the end of this year to keep your pro card. So Evan, you did not compete last year.
No.
You competed the year before. So
Mhm.
you did not apply for your pro card last year, correct?
Not last year, no.
So you have up to 3 years.
Hmm.
So, and I think it's, time flies. Like people are going to be like, wait a minute. Oh, crap. So yeah, you have up to 1 year from the date of registration to become active members.
And
Yeah.
there's one caveat they mentioned, and I can't remember the exact date. I think it's if you have not competed since like 2021 as a pro, then you do not have to activate your pro card. But once you do again, then those 3 years kick in.
Okay. Well,
There's
let's
there's
scroll
a
down it
weird
because that's,
caveat with that.
yeah, that's
I
why I want to
can't
be on
remember.
here because I want to be very clear with this there's a lot of people out there that have pro cards that might have never even paid for it. They might have just won it at a show and said, cool,
Mhm.
I'll get it when I'm ready to compete. This one says athletes who do not become active members within 1 year of the date of registration lose their IFBB pro status and must requalify. Okay. So, I mean, that's not nothing. I think a lot of people might
No.
get kind of lost in this because they're not going to hear about it. I mean, I literally had an athlete last year who wasn't able to compete because she didn't realize you had to put your contract in on Monday by 3 p.m.
Yeah.
She tried to put her contract in on like Wednesday and was told no. And I'm like, oh, you didn't know? That's been the whole year. So, as coaches, sometimes you got to like be on top of this stuff. And,
Yeah.
um,
I think the reason they're doing this too is for people who really aren't part of the sport. They're kind of can naturally fall off over time. I think is part of it.
so this kind of clears it up for me, Evan. It says active members who choose to become inactive may remain inactive for up to 3 calendar years. So if you've gotten your pro card at any point, you can remain inactive for up to 3 years.
I
After
think
3 years.
I think there's a date with that though, a year. I don't think it's any date.
Well, that says as of January 1st, 2024. So that's last January.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is
Oh yeah,
already,
scroll down a little bit
yeah.
more. It says, right there. Example 2, an IB Pro has competed in 2019, but has not since renewed. They choose to become active member on 25, then they have the 3-year rule.
Yep.
So that's an example. Okay. Any pro, IBB Pro before January 1st, 2004, but who are inactive. Okay. So yes. So anything, okay. It's January 1st, 2024. Okay. But do you
Yeah.
have
So
to,
basically this just
once
means
you become active, you have to stay active
every 3 years,
every
you can
3
take a
years.
3-year break, which allows the athlete time to go have a family, grow, whatever they want to do. But I think what they're saying is like, listen, if you haven't been active in 3 years, how do we know you're still quality enough to be on a pro stage, right?
But here's also what, Paul, has nothing to do with competing. You don't have to compete. This is
You just
just
have to pay for it.
paying for your pro card.
Right,
Nothing to do
right.
with
I
competing.
agree.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I guess that would eliminate that. So then it makes you think, okay, so this is about the lost income they have from people who compete in the NPC that then turn pro and just don't compete anymore. So that,
Mhm.
you know, that money is then lost and the competitors are just not a part of the sport, even though they're pros. But I think that's a part of the, when we talked a lot of last year, I kind of beat a dead horse about it, but just the size of the shows was so much smaller. You go, well, they have so many pros now. And a lot of those people
Yeah.
that are pros now would have still been competing in the NPC. When you give out 170 bikini pro cards a year in the United States alone, that's 170 athletes that are no longer competing in the NPC.
Yep.
Right. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like the MVC IFBB, it's a business, right? So
Of
it's
course.
like, I know some people have kind of fought back, like you know, I've just seen even with like fit model people like, oh, well, they're just trying to make more money. And it's like, well, it is a business. And honestly, the more money that they can make, they're going to put it back into shows and events and the athletes. It's not like it's just not going to go anywhere. You know, it's going to make
Yeah, that's a terrible argument when someone says, "Oh, this is a money grab."
right.
Well, it's also they're just paying attention to what's happening.
I
Like,
mean, yeah, and I mean, if you're an athlete, think about like you want to compete in shows where the venue is nice, where you're treated well as an athlete. Maybe there's some good goodie bags. You know, they're able to have high level judges there. Like you want to have a good
good
experience.
sponsors. Yeah, like
Yeah. And that all comes down to, okay, well, if the NPC IFBB has the funds to support that, you know, like it's only gonna help us as athletes. And you know, and that's not to get on a tangent, but that's why I think it's so important. Like if you are a competitor and even if you're not competing like currently, like go to shows, support the local promoters, support the seminars, like support those things. Cause I mean,
yeah.
it may not seem like that makes a big difference in the grand scheme of things, but the more support, you know, you can give, the better the industry and the better the shows are going to be as a whole.
Mhm. And think about this guy. Like if any sport, any professional sport, if you don't compete in that sport, if you don't play in that sport, it doesn't mean you were never a pro, but you're a retired pro, right? And I think that's the way they want this to be as well. And I don't have an issue with it. I don't. Like I think it's all fine.
Yeah, I think I think it encourages pros to compete. You know, if you're
Mhm.
going to pay for your IFBB Pro membership, compete. You know, I've been a part of other organizations that required you to compete, Evan, not just
Yeah.
get your card, but you had to compete within 2 years of earning pro status to keep your pro status. So you had to get on a pro stage within 2 years. So the clock was ticking as soon as you won your pro card. The IFBB has never done that. They've never said like, oh, you must compete within a certain amount of time. Now the IFBB is a little different because IFBB athletes do not pay an entry fee. The promoters do not make money off of a pro athlete. They lose money because they have to pay them. And typically, pro athletes travel to shows. They don't bring their friends and family. So the pro divisions aren't generating the money. The amateur divisions, your friends and family come. You do multiple classes. You're paying for novice, masters, open. That's where they're generating. So you know, when it comes to like the promoters, yeah, they need to make money to keep the shows going. You know, some of these venues, and I've talked to some of the promoters, you know, they're thousands of dollars before they even sell one registration for the show. You know, the show I used to promote, I used to do it at USF on the campus there, and I would get that whole theater for the whole day for like 400, $500. Now I'm talking to some of these promoters that are paying like 5, 6 grand between stage lighting and a room. So if you only get 100 people showing up to compete at a show and you already paid 6 grand, you know, you're going to be scraping to get by. So yeah, I think everyone talks about money that doesn't actually run a business. If you run a business, no one's mad at the NPC or IFBB for going, hey, we should try to get more people on stage. That's a terrible idea. No.
Right. Yeah. And logistically, I think those same people, if, you know, hopefully once they hear, you know, everything we just said, it logistically, it makes a lot of sense. And I think it'd be even kind of interesting in the future to maybe get a promoter on here, like interview them, just because I think it would be very eye-opening to know what goes into promoting a show, especially like the shows that we're familiar with, whether it's, I don't know, there were a lot of good promoters at this seminar this past weekend. So maybe just like getting one of them on and just interviewing them. I think it'd be interesting to hear about
Joe
that.
would be great. Serge would be great. David would be great. Tim Gardner would be great. I mean, Florida's chock full of great promoters. In fact, I
Yeah.
think, you know, state for state, the only other state that I've been to that I've been like as impressed with Florida is Texas.
Same.
Mhm.
Yeah, we could even like Bernadette, who does the like galvanized production
Bernadette, Fred, you know,
one.
Freddie
Yeah.
Nadeau.
Yeah.
I was thinking David might be really good because he did his first ever show he promoted last year. He's had NPC for Florida, right? And he had his first ever show this year, and it was a big hit.
Yeah.
It
Big,
was one
big
of the
hit.
bigger shows. I think
Yeah.
it might have been one of the biggest until the Holiday Classic was the largest show of the year, I heard, in Florida.
Oh wow. Okay.
But Dave is also a pro-am too. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it was I
But it
think it'd
was
be
just
interesting to
Masters,
see.
right? Was it Masters or was it?
No,
It was, well, just
they
Masters.
had they had opens been physique there.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay. I knew there was
Yeah.
something open, but it wasn't bikini. Okay. Yeah. So
But I think that would be really interesting to kind of hear like what he thought it was going to be like going in to promote his first show, then actually what happened when he promoted his first show. Because what he wasn't, I remember he wasn't going to have it at that venue. He was going to have it at another venue,
right.
but they ended up swapping back to it. What was the reason? Like, I think that would be really interesting to kind of know more about that and the decisions that go into it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the venue that Tim uses or has used in the past for
Mhm.
Hurricane, but he moved Hurricane this year to a hotel. So yeah.
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 Yeah, I think that'd be interesting. And if our listeners would be interested in that, comment below, because I always read through all of our comments. That's like one of my favorite things to do on
Yeah.
Monday. Wake up, I'll pop open our YouTube and I'll, because we usually have several people that listen like first thing in the morning on Monday that
Mhm.
drop a comment. So I love reading through those.
Yeah, I think for right now, everyone's just still waiting to see what Fit Model's about. Everyone's still going to be doing bikini. Um, and then, it's going to come down to you do a show, you go talk to the judge after, and especially if you do a show with a Sandy,
Mhm.
what do I fit better in? And she's probably going to be like, go hit a pose for me. Let me see your poses. And she's going to tell you. Um, so I think early on, it's going to come down to a lot of that, getting feedback and listening to the judges' feedback and doing what they, because when I first started coaching in this division, a lot of it was like, am I figure or bikini? It was that close. It's not that close anymore. Right.
Right.
And I think right now it's very close with Fit Model and bikini, especially at the amateur level. Once they start having some pro shows, that's when I think you're going to see the clear separation. And once they have their poster child, for years going to shows, it was always Jennifer Dory is the standard. That's what we're judging against. Now Laura Lee is the standard. That's what we're judging against. So we don't have a standard yet for this division. Once that's created, I think it's going to really drive the division, and I think that decision right there is probably going to decide how successful this sport is. Um, at least from the perspective of, obviously pro bikini at this point is getting more and more elite as far as like genetic structure, drugs, muscle, all those things. That it's getting, I think, at least from the perspective of newcomers to the sport, it's getting out of reach. Whereas this division, it's going to offer the opportunity to go from zero to the Olympia in a year or two.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that, if we look back at the history of bikini division, the year Janet won the overall, and then the next year was in the top 2 or 3 at the Olympia. The next year at nationals, you had so many competitors, so many, the biggest year ever, 280 at one show. So, yeah.
It'll be
It'll
an
be interesting to see. It's gonna be a wild year all the way around, I think.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying not to get too ahead of myself because it's like it's still so far away. I mean, the first show I'm going to be going to is the Arnold in a couple 4 or 5 weeks here,
Right.
which still won't have it. So I'm not going to put too much emphasis on it right now. I'm not treating anybody any differently. If you're doing bikini or if you're doing fit model, we're doing everything the same. Obviously, your posing's going to be different. You have to get a different suit, but muscularity, conditioning wise, pretty straight on.
Or even
Obviously, if I
training wise too, like training wise, I've had some people say, how is this gonna, like, if I do fit model, is it gonna change my training? And honestly, we're for the most part keeping their training the exact same. It's just basically a difference in amount of muscle for fit model versus bikini, but like same overarching muscle groups are still being focused on.
Yeah, unless your shoulders are too developed, that's
Yeah.
about the only thing that I'm saying maybe pull back on a little bit. Other than that,
yeah,
because that's going to be one thing. If you got shoulder muscle and you're going to have to at least get a little bit lean and in the glute ham area, then those shoulders are going to be capped if you got a lot of muscle there.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
yeah.
keeping that in line. And honestly, we talk about like upper body structure. And I talk a lot about like muscle insertions, right? Especially when it comes to the shoulders. Like a lot of girls that don't have the best shoulders have long muscle insertions, right? If you have shoulder muscle insertions like me, you have to get like little bowling balls on your shoulders.
Yep.
So a lot of girls that struggle in bikini with having the big round shoulders of bikini that really kind of matches the glute, I think will really fall naturally well into this division, just with the longer inserts, because they're
Yeah.
not going to have that ability to have quite that capped out. They just really can't.
Right.
So I was thinking about that the other day.
Yeah. It's gonna get good. It's gonna be interesting, and I'll be curious to see. It feels like, Bikini was very big at the Mel Chansey show. A lot of competitors. I'll be curious to see how big it was at Fit Expo and if it's going to continue, because maybe we're building more momentum back up at Bikini. We'll see, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All
Any
right.
other comments, guys?
I don't think so. I think
Lock it
we
up.
Quick
Well, I
winner this
think,
week.
yeah, I think for anybody that's still listening, thank you guys. Comment below topics you'd like to hear about. I am going, well, this will be out, but when I'll be back, but I'm leaving Thursday for a ski trip. So I'm going to shut my brain off from bodybuilding for a couple days, try to survive going down the mountain at 40 miles an hour on a
Please be
piece of,
careful.
piece of
Please be careful. I had a client who did that recently and got injured, so be careful. But where are you going for your ski trip?
I'm actually going to Park City. I've never been. I've always
Nice.
done Colorado.
cool.
So
Okay.
flying into Salt Lake City early Thursday. It's a boys trip. My best friend turned 50 recently, and so we just decided we're going to get a group of us and go together. So it's a boys trip to go snowboarding. Good group of guys. I am high level good at snowboarding. I'm not like doing backflips and crap, but I am very comfortable going down the mountain and all the terrains.
Well,
So,
that's
and I
exciting.
don't, I'm not a
Awesome.
risk taker. I just like to cruise.
I want to see some videos of you. I've never
I'll shoot some
I've
videos.
never,
I've always managed to keep my phone in my pocket in the jacket.
you
Yeah.
should get like a GoPro or something and like
So
do
I
some,
did that one
Yeah.
year. I thought this is cool. Let me tell you something. Videos do not look cool on a GoPro unless you are like jumping off the side of the mountain. Like I'd like, man, I'm going so fast. And I pulled up the video and it's like, huh, this is very boring. It's not fun to watch.
Okay, that's funny. That makes sense. That makes sense
Yeah,
though.
yeah.
Uh,
But
I was like, I need to go do some tricks or something. This is terrible video.
go speed it up like 2 times and be like, this is how fast I.
Yeah. And the other thing was, this was a while ago, a few years ago, but the size of the files on a GoPro were so big. I couldn't even import them into like iMovie or, you know, like Final Cut. Like they were so massive.
Interesting.
Interesting.
You could get like a drone and have one of your buddies fly your drone over you as you're
Well,
like.
now they have the drone that follows you. You wear its tracker and it follows you.
I was amazed at drones. Like, so I don't have one, but my dad has one. Don't ask why. He just has one as like a toy. And he was showing me how it worked, like back over the summer when we were at the lake. And it's insane. Like you just can fly it like a mile away and then it just like you can let it be and then it just comes back. It was crazy.
Yeah. Does your dad live near New Jersey? Whatever happened to all those drones?
No.
Whatever happened to that story?
The world was ending. There was nuclear
Dad is not
weapons
in New
and
Jersey.
aliens, and every day was a different story. And then all of a sudden they're just gone.
Everything just magically goes away and disappears. It's amazing how that happens.
A couple months ago, there was this interesting thing. So I saw like probably 5+ people post this, like there was this weird light in the sky near downtown Tampa. And it didn't like, I don't know what it was. I never figured it out, but everybody was like posting about it. They're like, what is this? Is this like aliens, a drone? Like it was like this rectangle kind of like, it was weird. It was in the sky and I never heard much of it after that. So I don't know. We live in an interesting day and age, so who knows what
That
it
we do.
The
But-
truth.
That we do.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for following along. Comment below. Make sure you let us know what topics you're interested in, because this is kind of the quiet time of year. Just keeping up with what's going on before the exciting part, when athletes start hitting the stage again. That's when it gets real fun.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right. Talk to you guys soon.
Bye, guys.
Appreciate it.